Hello, 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 hello. Happy Monday. Happy new week. How are y'all doing on this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day? How was your weekend? Listen, we hit record highs in Denver this weekend. Like we were well over 100 degrees this weekend. I saw a post from my cousin lives in Phoenix and she said it was like 117 degrees in Phoenix. That's wild. Are y'all experiencing this heat wave? If you are experiencing the heat wave this summer, drop the fire emoji down in the comments. Listen, I'm not complaining about it though. I actually like it. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Listen, happy Monday, happy new week. Get settled, go get your coffee, your tea, your water, get your snacks, sit yourself comfortably because we are about to get into this conversation. We're going to be talking about why your network won't refer you. Like, you know, all these people, they know what you're doing, but why are they not sending you people? We're about to get into it. Welcome back to another episode of Nick at Noon. My name is Nick Scott. I'm the founder and CEO of Her Income Edit. We are an online education platform designed to help women turn their skills into coaching, income, digital products, and online business so they can earn more, depend less on traditional employment, and design a life on their terms. If you are new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad that you found this video today because what we're about to talk about, it is one of those conversations that makes you realize the thing you've been frustrated about for a long time. It was never really about what you thought it was, okay? So if you haven't already, go get your notebook and your pens. I want you to share this link in the group chat. I want you to share the link to this video to one of your friends or to the friend who keeps saying that she wants to do something for herself, okay? So let's get into it. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. I want to start with the scenario. And I want you to think about it for a second before I explain where I'm actually going with this scenario that I'm talking about, okay? So imagine that you're at a networking event or a work function or a family gathering. You know, the kind where somebody is always asking, what do you do? And you answer. And when you answer, what are you answering with most likely? Most likely, what are you answering with? I'm gonna give you a beat to think about it. And actually, if you feel compelled to, drop it in the comments. What is it when someone asks what you do? What do you answer with? Yep. You answer with your title. You answer with your company. You even answer with what your department does, right? And so then the person, they nod and then they say something like, oh, wow, that's cool. And then the conversation just moves on, right? There are no follow-up questions. There's no, wait, can you tell me more about that? There's no, oh, I know someone who needs exactly that, right? It is just like a polite nod, and then the conversation just changes to something else. And then there's somewhere in within you, in your brain, and you file that under like, okay, I guess networking just doesn't work for me, right? And I want to offer a completely different read on what just happened in that moment because the problem isn't the room. The problem wasn't the networking event. The problem wasn't a work function. The problem wasn't a family gathering. That wasn't the problem. The problem isn't your title. The problem isn't your industry. And the problem is most definitely not you. The problem is that you describe what you do for your employer and nobody in the room that you're in, whatever this event is, they can picture what you can do for them. And that right there, when you start to make that distinction, it will start to change how these networking conversations happen and how you leave feeling, yeah, I said that right, how you leave feeling about them. Because describing your job and describing your value are two completely different things. And I know, I get it. I know that it feels like a very small like we're talking semantics here, Nick, but I want you to stay with me for a minute on this, because this is where so many talented, qualified, and high achieving, skilled women get stuck. And it's not because they don't have anything to offer. It's because the way that we have all learned to talk about ourselves, it was designed for a resume. It wasn't designed for a conversation. It wasn't designed to get a referral. It wasn't designed for an opportunity that lives outside of our or your current employer, right? So when the only language that you have for your own value is job description language, you literally become invisible to the very people who would love to work with you. Have you ever struggled to explain what you do outside of your job title? Drop a number 1 in the chat if that's you. Because let me tell you something that I experienced when I left my content marketing role earlier this year. Not when I left, when I was asked to leave my content marketing role earlier this year, March 4th, 2026, okay? I had spent years building content strategies. I had spent years growing platforms, running webinar campaigns that generated millions of dollars in revenue. I spent years leading teams. I spent years shaping brand voice for companies, right? And for this particular company. And when I suddenly had to describe what I did outside of that corporate context, I like you, if somebody asked me what I did, I work in marketing. So when I left that role, when someone asked me, I couldn't say I work in marketing anymore, right? Because I wasn't within that org chart anymore. I was outside of that brand name behind me. So I really had to come to grips with something that's uncomfortable. Because the thing is, I was really good at my job, y'all. Very good at my job. The numbers said it. My manager said it. My performance review said it. I was good at my job. But what I hadn't done was build any language around what I was truly good at. I knew how to talk about what I did for the company, but I didn't have the same clarity about what I could do for someone else on my terms and in a way that made people reach for their phones and want to refer me. And that is not a credentials problem. It is not a confidence problem either. What I was experiencing and what you might be experiencing as well is a positioning problem. And here's what I want you to understand about going from describing what you do for your company to describing what it is that you actually do. Positioning is not a branding exercise. It's not a social media strategy, and it's not something you do when you're ready to go public about what it is that you want to build. Positioning is how you become referable to your network. And when you become referable, that is how income starts to move outside of your 9-to-5, outside of your employer's payroll. Positioning is how you become referable, y'all. And referable is how income moves outside of your employer's payroll. So today, that is exactly what we'll be talking about. We're not going to be talking about how to build a following, because that's not relevant to this conversation. We're not going to be talking about how to write a bio, again, because that's irrelevant to this conversation. We are not even going to be talking about how you're going to write the perfect LinkedIn headline, although some of that will, start to resonate with you naturally before we're done. But what we are going to be talking about is the thing that's deeper than all of that. We're going to be talking about why the people who know you are not sending opportunities your way. And then I also want to talk about what shifts when they can send opportunities your way, okay? Because I want you to walk out of this conversation. If you are under the sound of my voice right now, I want you to leave this conversation with a completely different understanding of what's been standing between you and the stream of income that you keep saying you want, okay? And spoiler alert, it is probably not what you think it is. Again, settle in, get your water, your tea, your coffee, your cocktail, your snack, whatever it is. Tag your biz bestie. Send this link in the group chat. We are about to get into it. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. So let's talk about talk about how most income opportunities get created, especially those that are outside of traditional employment, because there is a story that most of us have that goes a little something like this. You want to build another stream of income. And so that means you need to find new people. So then that means you need to get in front of a bigger audience. So then that means you need to grow your social media following. So that means you might need to start a podcast. Maybe that means you need to figure out some type of marketing that feels completely foreign and exhausting to you, right? And then you feel like if you haven't done those things, this opportunity, it hasn't reached you yet. But let me disrupt that story. Let me go on and just disrupt it, because most income, it doesn't come from strangers, especially when you're first starting. That foundational income, that those first few dollars that come into your business when you are building something outside of your 9 to 5, it doesn't come from strangers. It comes from people who you already know. It comes from your former colleagues. It comes from your former managers. It comes from other professionals in your network, people who you have seen in action, who have seen you in action. That's where your first sales will come from. It'll come from people who have watched you solve a problem or lead a room or explain something in a way that made everything click for them. And those people, they're in your network. And trust me when I say they want to send you business. They really do. So the problem is never the willingness of the people in your network that they don't want to send you business. The problem here is that they don't know what to say. They don't know what to say. Has someone ever said, I want to send you people. I want to send people to you. I want to refer you. I want to send you people, but then you never heard anything from them from it? Has that ever happened to you? I want you to think about the last time someone said to you, oh my gosh, I should introduce you to Sarah. And then you never met Sarah. Here's the thing. That introduction to Sarah, it didn't happen because whoever said it, they forgot about you. It was because they went to make the introduction and then they couldn't finish the sentence. They couldn't say, you should talk to her because she specifically helps with, what is the thing that you help with? What is it? What is the thing that you do? So this person who wanted to refer you, they had a general sense that you're smart, you're capable, but they didn't have a way to complete that sentence. And without that sentence, an introduction to Sarah is never going to get made. It's never going to get made. And this is what I mean when I say nobody can refer you if nobody knows what you do. Because it's not that they don't know you exist. It's that they cannot hand you to someone else in a way that sticks. And again, that is a positioning problem. It is not a popularity problem. Okay? So let me give you an example so that I can really drive this point home for you, okay? So imagine two women. They are both project managers. They are both talented. They both have more than 10 years of experience in their industries, right? The first woman A, let's call her Tracy. So Tracy, when someone asks Tracy what she does outside of her job, Tracy says, I'm a project manager at Smucker's. I oversee cross-functional teams and I manage timelines for large initiatives. So that's what Tracy says. And that is valid, it is accurate, and it is completely forgettable to anyone who is not already in her world, right? So then we have woman B. Let's call her Keisha. So Keisha says, I help service-based business owners stop dropping balls when they start scaling. I work with people who are great at what they do, but can't figure out why nothing runs smoothly when they try to grow. See, Tracy and Keisha, they have the same skills, but when they're describing what they do, it has a completely different impact on the person who's hearing it, right? Because Tracy is describing her job function. And then Keisha is describing a problem that she solves for a very specific kind of person. So I want you to guess which one gets preferred. Is it Tracy or is it Keisha? Is it Tracy or is it Keisha? Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. So here's the thing. I know what some of you might be thinking. You might be thinking, you know what? I'm not sure what my specific niche is. I don't know what problem I solve outside of my job. And you might even be thinking, I don't want to put myself in a box, right? And I understand it, I get it, I hear it. But I want to just give you a different lens on putting yourself in the box, okay? Because that is the thing that constantly comes up. I want to be clear when I say this. Clarity is not a cage. Clarity is not a cage. Clarity is not a box. Clarity is a magnet. And when you are clear about who you help and what you help them with, you don't repel people who don't fit. You attract the people who do fit. And I get it. When you're vague, when you stay high level, it feels real safe. It feels comfortable up there. But that's how you also stay invisible. Again, if you're taking notes, jot it down in your notebook. Somebody can even drop it in the comments. Clarity is not a cage. Clarity is a magnet. And here is the part that makes this, what I just said, it makes it income critical and not just motivational and inspiring and interesting to hear. When you are building a stream of income outside of your 9-to-5, you are not starting with an audience of thousands of people. And it doesn't matter if it's coaching, consulting, digital products, or something else. When you are building a stream of income outside of your 9-to-5, you are not starting with an audience of thousands of people. You are starting with the people who are already in your sphere. Again, we're talking about former colleagues. We're talking about your alumni network. We're talking about the community groups that you're involved in. We're talking about professional associations, people who send you DMs with questions and they're already sending them to you. We're talking about people who come to you at work when things are getting complicated. Those people are your first market when you get started in this. And if they can't describe what you do in one sentence, they cannot send you your first client. So before you hop on social media, before you open up a Google Doc and start trying to contemplate a marketing strategy, before you start building out a 6 months content calendar and building your email list, you need to have a sentence. You need to have a sentence. And the sentence, it lives inside something that most women don't realize that you already have. Your sentence is already in you. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Now, I want to introduce you to a concept. And I think about this concept a lot in the work that I do. Okay? So if you're taking notes, this might be the part of the conversation where you might want to start jotting some things down. So this concept I call the invisible portfolio. Invisible portfolio. Somebody drop invisible in the comments. Your invisible portfolio is everything you know how to do that you've never once thought to put a price tag on. That is what your invisible portfolio is. So I'm talking about the problems that you solve, the shortcuts that you found, the patterns that you can instantly recognize, the explanations that make something complicated very simple. The invisible portfolio is literally everything that you know how to do that you've never once thought to put a price tag on. Because oftentimes those things live inside your job. And when it's inside your job, it feels like you're just doing your job, right? It doesn't feel like it's special. It doesn't feel like it's rare. It feels like Wednesday. It feels like Monday. Hello. So if there are things that you do at work that feel obvious to you, are there things that feel obvious to you that don't feel obvious to you that you do at work? They feel so obvious to you that you can't imagine anyone would pay for them. What are some of those things? Because here's the thing that I want you to think about in this. The things that feel obvious to you, they're not obvious to everybody else. The reason that you can't see them in your workflow, the reason that you can't see them from 10 minutes into a meeting is because you have spent years of building pattern recognition that other people don't have. The reason that you can write a clear strategy document when everyone else is drowning in competing priorities is because clarity under pressure is a skill that you built. That is not a personality trait that you were born with. The reason that people come to you with all of their messed up, messy situations, and then they leave those conversations with you with a plan, it's because you developed a framework in your head that you never once had to write down because it's just how you think. That is your invisible portfolio, y'all. And every single piece of that invisible portfolio, it is teachable, it is packageable, and it is sellable. Not just to your employer, because they've already bought access to that invisible portfolio out at a rate that they set. Your invisible portfolio it can be sold to people who would pay a premium to you, directly to you, to have it. Because listen, the things that feel obvious to you, they are breakthroughs for someone else. And that is why coaching is such a powerful first income vehicle for women. Because coaching doesn't ask you to invent something new. It asks you to take what you already have and deliver it in a format that moves somebody else forward. I'm talking about the knowledge. I'm talking about your frameworks. I'm talking about all of your hard-won clarity. You are not starting from zero. You are translating. And translation is a skill set that most women, we have it in abundance because we do it all day, every day. Like, you have literally spent years explaining complex things to people at different levels of understanding. Have you raised a child? That is the first example that came to my mind when I said that. Explaining complex things to people at different levels of understanding. You've probably mentored junior colleagues. You've probably onboarded new team members. You've probably guided people through processes that they don't understand yet. Right there is coaching. You are exercising your coaching muscle. You have already been coaching. You just haven't been charging for it. So tell me in the comments, what is something that you do, whether it's professionally or personally, that people come and ask you about all the time? I'm talking about, what are those things that your coworkers, your friends, your cousins, your mama, your daddy, your sisters, your baby sister, cousin-in-law Tracy, or your peers, what are they coming to ask you for advice on? Because I want to connect this back to the positioning conversation. When you understand your invisible portfolio, the sentence that I was talking about earlier, it becomes real easy. Because when you are at those networking events, when you are at those job functions that I talked about earlier, when you're out at those family gatherings, you'll stop saying, I'm a content marketer at Smucker's, or I work in marketing like I used to say. And you'll start saying that I help women turn their existing skills into coaching income, digital products, and online businesses so they can stop depending less on traditional employment and start creating futures for themselves. And that sentence is not just your marketing line. It is a description of what you've already been doing. But it's in a way that people outside of your org chart, they can understand and they can act on. Your skills don't change. Your value doesn't change. The language changes. And language is the thing that's either going to open doors or it's going to keep you the best kept secret in every single room that you walk into. Listen, you are not the best kept secret because you lack skills. You are the best kept secret because you lack positioning. Okay? Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. All right. So now I want to talk about something that might make you a little uncomfortable. Because in my work, I see a lot of women who are not invisible. Because you are posting, you are showing up, you are networking, you are doing the LinkedIn thing, and you're building an online presence. But still, your income is not moving. And so you start thinking that you need to be more visible. So you create more content, you're on more platforms, and you're showing up more, right? And here's the thing. Visibility without positioning is not a growth strategy. All that is, my beloved, is expensive noise. If you have been creating content or consistently networking and you feel like you're not getting traction, I want you to drop a number 2 in the chat. Here's what I mean. When you are visible, but you're not clear, people are definitely going to see you. They're going to like your posts. They're going to engage with your content. And they're going to tell you you're inspiring. They're going to tell you to keep going. But guess what? They forget what you do. They're clearly paying attention, right? But the reason that they're going to forget what you do is because you haven't give them a mental hook to hang you on. Like they can't connect the dots. Our brains are wired to file information under categories, okay? So when someone can't categorize you, they have nowhere to put you. So when you are just smart, or you're really good at what you do, or you always post good stuff, other people, their brains, they can't figure out where to categorize you. And then things with nowhere to get categorized, they get forgotten. Visibility without positioning is just being seen. But positioning is what helps you to be remembered. Now, let me give you what this looks like when we're talking about the money, when we're talking about the income part of this problem, okay? Most women who want to build income outside of their job, they spend months, sometimes they spend years doing this. They spend months and years posting content, attending events, building an audience, and they're doing all of this before they make their first dollar outside of their salary. And when I look at what's happening here, when you start showing up, but you don't have your first client, listen, it's positioning. That is almost every single time. That's the thing what's missing, because you're clearly putting in the effort. You are clearly talented. You clearly have the time, but you don't have the positioning. And here's what positioning does that visibility all by itself cannot do. It will turn a passive audience into an active referral network. Because when someone knows exactly what you do and who you help, they don't just consume your content. They become your distribution channel. They start tagging people. They start sharing your content. They're forwarding your content. They're dropping links to your videos in group chats and sending them to their biz bestie. They say, you need to talk to her. And let me tell you something about word of mouth. Word of mouth remains the best form of marketing there is. That right there is how your first income stream outside of your 9-to-5, word of mouth, that is how it gets built. It is not through a viral moment. A viral moment might help, maybe. I can do a whole conversation about going viral. But those first dollars, they're going to come through very targeted clarity that is spreading through the exact right network. Okay? So that is the first cost of positioning. The second cost, and this is the one that doesn't get talked about enough. When you are unclear about your positioning, you cannot confidently price whatever it is that you're selling. I want you to think about this. If someone asks you, what do you charge? And you don't have a crisp answer for what you do and who you help, the pricing conversation is going to feel real wobbly because you haven't grounded that price in a specific value. Confidence in pricing and clarity in your positioning, they live in the exact same place. One does not exist without the other. So every month that you stay fuzzy on your positioning is a month that your pricing is squishy and it's soft and it's not solid. And squishy, soft pricing on the front end, it starts to compound into much longer runways that can turn into meaningful income for you. Here's the thing that I want you to take from this part of the conversation. Pricing confidence is a literal downstream result of positioning clarity. You cannot strong arm one of these without fixing the other. Okay? Now, I want to bring something else into this conversation that doesn't get said enough when we're talking about build side income or building multiple streams of income. This thing doesn't get talked about enough. Because we always talk about strategy, we're always talking about offers, we're always talking about passive income, we're always talking about funnels, we talk about content. Listen, all of that stuff matters, but the reason that most women can't convert even when you have a strategy in place, it's because you haven't connected your positioning to your identity. And here's what I mean by that. Oftentimes, you are not sure that you're allowed to say that you do the thing that it is that you say that you want to do. Like there is this internal permission situation that's happening. It's like, you know what? I know this stuff. I want this stuff. I know I can help people. But then on the other side, it's like, I can't say that I'm someone who helps with this stuff. I know it, but I can't help somebody. And listen, that gap between the two, it is often the space where people say that I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready. I'm getting ready to get ready. I need more credentials. I want to wait until I get more established. I want to wait until I get certified. I want to wait until my audience gets bigger. I want to wait until the kids go back to school in August. But here is what I have learned. That is just like the surface level. Getting ready to get ready. That is the surface level thing. There is something deeper than that I see happening with women. And that is, who am I to say that I do this? Who said that I get to build a business outside of my job? Who said that? And can I just talk about that for just a second? Like, for real. Because you have already earned the right to own your skills. You have already earned the right to own your knowledge. You have already owned the right to own your expertise, your lived experience, every single year of experience, every problem you solved, every mentee that you helped, every time someone came to you because they trusted your judgment. That right there is the credential. That right there is the proof. So you don't need a certificate. You don't need more followers. And you definitely don't need anybody else's permission, because your lived experience, your skills, that hard-won knowledge is legitimate. It is the proof, period. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Here's the thing about all this. Everything that we have talked about today, it all connects to the same income reality. And if you are just joining live and you missed any part of this conversation, I encourage you to go back and watch the replay of this video on my YouTube channel, okay? So everything that we talked about today in this conversation, the referrals, I'm going to call it the referral economy, because there's economics in referrals. We talked about the invisible portfolio. We talked about the positioning gap, right? All of that connects to the same income reality. Your 9-to-5 has a ceiling. That is the reality. It has a ceiling. It is capped by a salary band. It is capped by whatever. When I was in my when I was in my position, in my last position at my last company, my position stopped at a certain salary. So if I wanted to earn more, I had to go to the next level in the organization, right? So your 9-to-5, it has a ceiling. It has a ceiling. And that ceiling is not a reflection of your worth. That is just the structural feature of employment. That's just how it is. Your employer, it doesn't matter who you work for, they set a rate. Your employer, they have to approve your raise, right? And oftentimes, they don't just hand you a raise. You have to negotiate that raise. You have to raise your hand and say, hello, manager, look at all the things that I've been doing. I deserve a raise. And then it takes months on months to even get that raise approved. Your employer decides if your role is going to exist next quarter. None of what I just said is in your control. Not the rate that you're getting paid, not the raise that you are or are not going to get, and definitely not whether or not your role still exists next quarter. So what that means is the single most skilled part of yourself can still be financially vulnerable. You're so highly skilled, but you're still financially vulnerable, because all of your skills, they are sitting inside one stream of income that somebody else controls. Multiple streams of income are not a luxury. That is what safety looks like when you're paying attention. And I'm not saying that to create fear. I'm saying it because I lived it. I'm saying it because every single week we are seeing the headlines about it. I'm saying it because it doesn't matter how much money you make. One stream of income is not income diversity. My husband sent me a video, something on Facebook. He sent me something on Facebook about an NFL player who was basically fired. They're calling it a layoff, but was basically fired, and just, with no warning. And he has a podcast, I believe, and it's called like The Pivot or something like that. And in this clip that my husband sent me, this NFL player is talking. Now, mind you, I think it was ESPN. ESPN or whoever it was, okay, this broadcast, this TV network was paying this man $2 million a year. $2 million a year, okay? Ex-NFL player, skilled, talented, all the things, gets hired by this TV network, and they decide that they want to just let him go because they don't like him, basically, okay? And he's making $2 million a year. This guy making $2 million a year, former NFL player, literally said, if I did not have this podcast and this platform that I was building on the side of this TV network job, I would have been in bad shape. I'm not saying this to create fear. I lived it. This former NFL player lived it. Celebrities. For all intents and purposes, this person is a celebrity. But here's the thing. I know what it feels like to be the most qualified version of yourself and still be completely at the mercy of someone else's budget meeting. Listen, when I got laid off on March 4th, 2026, I will always remember that day because it's almost like a second birthday for me. I was grateful for every single additional income stream that I had built outside of that company. And it's not because it has replaced my salary overnight. That's like, listen, this is not about building something that replaces your salary. It is about building something that gives you the option. Because here's the thing about those streams of income that I had already started bringing in money through her income edit leading up to the day that I got laid off. And those multiple streams of income that I had built, they meant that one decision by that one company, it didn't own my entire financial future. I at the drop of a dime, I was laid off on a Wednesday, and on Monday I was doing my first episode of Nick at Noon. That would not have been able to happen if I didn't already have something in place. That right there is the goal, y'all. This former NFL player, TV broadcaster at this network that just got let go, drop of a dime, he was able to be like, you know what, it's all good. I have this thing over here. That is the goal. It is not about quitting your job. I say it all the time. I believe that your job needs to be the first investor in your business. This is not about burning anything down. This is not about trading the stability that you have worked so hard for in your 9-to-5 for a risk. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is just, here's your income. Here's another layer. Okay? I'm talking about adding a layer. And here is why positioning is the specific doorway to get to this layer that I'm talking about. Because you cannot build a stream of income from your skills that nobody knows that you have. If nobody knows you have those skills, you will not get clients that find you. You won't be able to charge anything because nobody will be able to articulate your value. This income layer right here, it starts with the sentence that we talked about earlier. And that sentence, it starts with clarity about your own positioning. And if you missed the conversation about the sentence and you're just joining live, I encourage you to go watch the replay of this video on my YouTube channel. Okay, hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. So I want to give you a framework. So I already talked about the invisible portfolio, which was that valuable for you? If that was valuable for you, give this video a thumbs up and let me know. Now I want to give you a framework because this is something that I think about when I work with women inside my programs. And this framework, you know, I love pyramids, okay? So I love pyramids. So I'm going to call this the know. I wish I could draw. The know, do, trust triangle. Okay. Know is going to be at the top of this triangle. So if you are taking notes, just draw a triangle in your notes. And at the top point, I want you to write know. K-N-O-W. So this is when people know what you do. Let me rewind. This is when people know who you are, what you do, and who you serve. So that is at the top of that triangle, okay? Do, we're going to put that in this left-hand corner, okay? Do, this is when people have seen you do it. They have seen it in your work. They have seen it in your content. They have seen it in your conversations. So they have seen you do the thing that you do, that you know, okay? So then trust, we're going to put that in the right-hand corner, okay? Trust is they believe that you can do this for them or for somebody that they know. Know, do, trust, okay? Most women who do not get referrals or they're not getting clients, they are missing one point of this triangle. Maybe they're trusted, but they're not clear. So referrals never come in. Or maybe they're visible, but they're not credible in that specific, in that lane. So the trust hasn't yet transferred. Or you know exactly who you are, what you do, and who you serve, but you haven't shown enough evidence of doing the thing. Okay? So the gap between, well, she says that she does this, and somebody saying, I believe she can do this, that gap never closes. So again, positioning, it fixes that first point. And then everything else builds from there. Again, you cannot build income from skills that nobody knows about. And this is the part that I really want to get into. If you have an idea that you have been carrying around, and if you've been carrying around an idea that you'll figure out your positioning once you're making money, and you feel like, you know what, I have this idea, I want to make money before I start to nail down my positioning, I want to flip that for you, okay? Because the thing is, you will start making money once you figure out your positioning. And that right there is the order in this. And it is not as hard as it sounds when you have the right support. Okay? Hello. Thanks for joining. So everything that we talked about today is not theory. Like, I don't teach theory. I teach fact. I teach proof. So we talked about the referral economy. We talked about the invisible portfolio. We talked about the positioning gap. And we just talked about the know, do, and trust triad. None of it is theory. This is the exact work that we do inside of Ignite. Ignite is my 12-week group coaching program. It is specifically designed for professional women who are ready to build a skills-based stream of income outside of their 9-to-5. It is specifically designed to help you start building that second layer. Okay? So in 12 weeks of our work together, you will move from, I know I should be doing something, I know I can help people, I really want to get this thing. So that's where you are now. By the end of 12 weeks, you're going to have an offer. You're going to know who that offer is for. You're going to know how to talk about that offer, and you will have made some money from that offer. You will have sold it. You will be earning from it. So we will get very clear on your positioning. You will build your offer in Ignite. You start having your first client conversations in Ignite. And we do this inside of a cohort of women who are building with you. So you're not doing any of this alone. The next cohort for Ignite, it kicks off on August 10th. And I have intentionally capped the seats because I keep my cohort small so that every woman in the room gets real attention and not just access to a program and a curriculum, okay? So when it is full, it is full. And if you have been watching this video today and you're thinking, you know what, this is exactly what I've been missing, I want you to take that sentiment and that feeling and that thought, I want you to take that seriously. So if you want to learn more about Ignite, you can click the link down in the description, or you can head over right to my website at herincomeedit.com/ignite, and you can read all about it and apply. And the thing about applying is it doesn't mean that you have it all figured out. It means that you are ready to figure it out with support, and you're ready to figure it out with structure around you. So after you apply, if your application shows that you are a good fit for the program, you and I will get on a strategy call together. We will talk about where you are. We will talk about what it is that you want to build. And we will talk about whether or not Ignite is the right next step for you in your journey. There is no pressure. There is no hard sell. We are going to have an honest conversation between you and we're going to figure out if this makes sense. Because if it is the right move for you, we will move forward. But if the timing is off, I will tell you that. I will tell you that. Because here's the thing about me and anything that I'm doing in my business. I'm not here just to try to fill up seats and take your money. I am trying to build a room full of women who are serious about this. I have a mission. I am on a mission. So if you have been sitting here for the last 50 minutes, you are probably one of those women that are serious about this. You're probably one of those women. Listen, there are women in your life right now who need exactly what it is that you know how to do. These women, they are stuck in the same place that you were 3 years ago or 5 years ago or 3 months ago. These women are Googling things that you already understand. They're paying for answers that you've already lived through. They need you. They're looking for you. And right now, the only thing standing between these women and the help that you can give them is that you just don't know how to do this yet. And that right there, it is not a skill problem. It is not a talent problem. It's not a timing problem. It is a positioning problem. And positioning is something that we can fix together. Nobody can refer you if nobody knows what you do. So I want to help you make sure that they know. Okay? I want to thank each and every one of you for popping in and out of today's live. Your presence is always felt and appreciated, and I see you. I see you. Thank you for the love. I want you to share the link to this video to someone who needs to hear this conversation. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button here on YouTube and turn your bell notifications on so you do not miss a beat. Today, I am dropping the next video in my 100-day sprint. I don't want you to miss any of the good content that I have coming for the next, what is that? 80-something, 70-something days I have left. It's crazy. I've been posting videos every day for this long, but we gonna get into it, okay? Listen, my name is Nick Scott. This has been another episode of Nick at Noon. I am here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Mountain Time. I am talking about all things strategy, tools, and mindset when it comes to your coaching business, when it comes to digital products, and when it comes to building your online business. If that is something that you are here for and you want to engage in this community, hit that subscribe button. Go on my website, learn more about Ignite, herincomeedit.com/ignite. I hope to see your application come through. Actually, I hope to see you in this first cohort. We did our founding cohort earlier in March. This is cohort 1. I hope to see your application. I hope to be working with you soon because I already know that there are people right now looking for the exact thing that you know how to do, but they can't hire you. You cannot build this second layer because you're not there. They can't find you. And I want to help you fix that, okay? herincomeedit.com/ignite, or just click the link down in the bio. You can even just drop the word ignite down in the chat and I'll make sure that you get the details directly, okay? All right, y'all. Y'all have a good one. Thanks again for joining and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.